So page 2, again, if you want, you can use the place value table here, no problem. Okay, if you don't need it, then just go and write the numbers, okay? So page 2, it says multiply. Multiply, what do I multiply? 3 and 2/10, okay? 3 and 2/10. So I know there is a decimal. So 3 and 2/10, okay? By 1/100, okay? So let's just write it over here. 3 and 2/10, and then 1/100, 1 in the hundredths place. So I put a 0 there, okay? So I can just copy this and go to the next page, okay? And paste it over here. You can do that, okay? So why don't we just use that? Now, when you multiply, you do not need, okay, you do not need to align the decimals. When you multiply, you can multiply it like a regular number. So I can just take this and move it as such, okay? And multiply. So 1 times, remember, when you're multiplying, you need to multiply by the place value, okay? So 1 times 2 is 1, okay? And 1 times 3, sorry about that. 1 times 2 is 2, and 1 times 3 is 3, okay? And then we go to the next one. 0 times 2. Now, since you're multiplying in the tenths place, it needs to be written, okay? The first digit needs to be written underneath the tenths place. Okay, so 0 times 2 is 0. And then 0 times 3 is another 0. So if you notice, when I multiplied by this place value, the first digit went, it's aligned to it, okay? Now, one thing you can do so that you can avoid making mistakes is to put a placeholder. You can put an X or you can put a 0. It's up to you, okay? So once you're done with that, you add it. So you have 2, 3, 0. Now, how many decimal places are after, how many digits are after the decimal place? So there's 2, it's after the decimal point, and you have another 2 digits after the decimal point. So total of 3 digits. So that means we move the decimal point. Now remember, every whole number has an invisible decimal point after the units place. Okay, so we move it 1, 2, 3 to the left. Okay, because there's 1, 2, 3 digits after the decimal point. That's why the answer is 32 thousandths. Okay, so that is the answer to this problem. Okay, so let's try the next one. It says, again, multiply. What do I multiply? 16 and 5/10. So how do I write that? 16 and 5/10. So 16 and 5/10. And then multiply it by 2/10. Okay, how do I write 2/10? Now we know it's a decimal because it has THS. Okay, 2/10. Okay, so this is how you write the number. Okay, now as I said, you do not need to align the decimal point, but since it's aligned already, it doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm just going to move it a little closer to each other. Okay, and then we can now multiply. So 5 times 2 is 10. 2 times 6 is 12. Plus 1 is 13. Carry 1. 2 times 1 is 2 plus 1 is 3. Now, how many decimal places? there are 2 digits after the decimal point. Okay, so what you need to do is, remember, there is an invisible decimal point after every whole number. So we move it to the left. And so the final answer is 3 and 3/10. Okay? Okay. Now, the next one is saying divide 24. Okay, very easy to write 24 divided by 6/10. Okay, so how do we write 6/10? Again, it's in the tenths place, THS, okay? So 6/10, okay? Divided by 6/10. Now, we cannot, okay, please remember, we cannot divide if your divisor is, this is the divisor, okay? If your divisor is a decimal, you cannot. So we need to make it into a whole number. So what I do is I just move the decimal point until I get a whole number. So if I move it once, this now becomes 6. So if I move the decimal point once to make this, okay, to make this a whole number, I need to do the same for this, for 24. Now remember, 24 is a whole number and therefore there's an invisible decimal point there. So I move the same way, 1 decimal point to the right. And there's your 0. Okay? So now the new number is 240 divided by, okay, let me just move the 6 lower. So there it is. So let's solve it. 240 divided by 6, 4, 24, 0, bring down the next 0. 0 divided by 6 is 0. 0 times 6 is 0. No remainder. So the answer is 40. Okay? And finally, the last one, it says divide 12 and 1/10. Okay? So 12, okay, 12 and 1/10. And what do I divide it by? I divide it by 200. Okay? So 200. So we need to put it over here. Okay? 200. And put your 0 there. So that is, okay, that is our, how we write 12 and 1/10 and 200s. Okay? So now let me write it in this format. 12 and 1/10 divided by, okay, 200s. Okay? Now, again, we cannot divide by a decimal, so we need to make it into a whole number. So I move this 2 decimal places to the right, and now this becomes 2. So what do I do with this one? The same thing. There's your decimal point, 1 place, 2 places to the right. So now I have 1,210. Okay? And then you now can divide 1,210 divided by 2, 6, 12, bring down 1, 0, 0 times 2 is 0, bring down the other 0, 10 divided by 2 is 5, 5 times 2 is 10, no remainder. So the answer is 605. Oops, why did that become an eraser? Okay? So hopefully this makes it clear and makes you more prepared for your 8MN1. I will do another tutorial for the missing digits, okay? And that's it for this one. Bye-bye.